Welcome to Living One. My name is Olivia Crossman. I'm your host. Living One is a monthly webinar series in which presenters from around the world share their vision for a future where all Earth beings live as one community in peace, dignity, and freedom. We ask the question, we know what's wrong, but what does right look like? This last fall marked the beginning of Living One's 4th year, but today these conversations are more important than ever, for they are more than conversations. They are opportunities to build community, salve for the isolating wounds of our time. Today, we have the 3rd session of our winter series, Animal Trauma Responsive Care and Alternative Medicine. Continuing over the next 4 weeks, we will hear the perspectives of 4 individuals who have dedicated their lives to animal psychological and physical healing as they share their experiences and the transformative nature of this work. We are delighted to have you join us as we explore this important topic together. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are all currently on various different Indigenous lands. I am currently on the ancestral homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, which includes the Ojibwa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. This land exists also as a place of trade with other Indigenous communities, including the Ho-Chunk, Miami, Menominee, Sauk, and Meskwaki. The Krulos Center for Nonviolence, located in Southern Oregon, is also the homelands of the grizzly bear, takelma, and gray wolf. To recognize the land is to recognize the lasting effects of colonization, genocide, and oppression that still impact Indigenous communities today, but it is also an expression of gratitude and appreciation for the land and for all those whose homelands we live and work on. In the 3rd of this 6-part series, we welcome Susan Tellem. Susan is the executive director of the American Tortoise Rescue, located in Malibu, California. In 1990, with her husband Marshall Thompson, Susan founded the American Tortoise Rescue to provide protection for all turtles and tortoises. American Tortoise Rescue has a sanctuary and turtle hospital where rescued, abandoned, injured, and those confiscated from law enforcement can be safe. American Tortoise Rescue has rescued or rehomed more than 4,000 animals to forever homes. As a longtime cat rescuer, Susan started rescuing and caring for turtles because of the tremendous help needed worldwide. In 2000, Susan founded World Turtle Day to celebrate the international love of turtles, which now reaches more than 1 million people annually around the world. Susan is an expert in public relations after a 40-year career as a registered nurse, LAPD Reserve Officer Specialist, a voting member of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, and a former member of Malibu's Community Emergency Response Team. In addition, Susan has 4 adult children and 2 rescue cats. Before we begin, let me share a few logistical notes. Susan will be speaking for 45 minutes, after which we will have 15 minutes for question and answer. In order to proceed in a timely manner, we do ask that you please send your questions along in the chat during Susan's presentation, and we will read them out after she is finished. For anyone who isn't familiar with the Zoom chat function, if you move your cursor towards the bottom of your screen, you will see a number of icons appear, one of which is the chat function. This is towards the center left of your screen. If you click on that, the chat will appear where you can type any questions or comments as we go. We have 2 members of our Krulos community here with us today, Jenny and Deeksha, who will be monitoring the chat throughout our time together. Also, please do note that the Zoom session will be recorded. So if you would feel more comfortable leaving your camera off or changing your Zoom name, please feel free to do so. Finally, we ask that unless you are currently speaking, you keep your microphone muted to avoid any unintended interruptions. So without further ado, we welcome Susan Tellem.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here and talk about turtles. It's near and dear to my heart, obviously. I was a cat rescuer before I became a turtle rescuer, so it was a weird transition. They're very different, obviously. You gave a little bit of background. It's interesting because when I first started the turtle rescue in 1990, there were no turtle rescues national turtle rescues in the country. And so it was like starting from scratch for us as well, because the reason we started the rescue was my kids always loved animals, and so we had birds and snakes and cats and dogs and everything always. And one day, my husband and I were in the pet store, and we knew better to not buy animals, but That was the early days of animal rescue, and a lot of information wasn't out there. And of course, we didn't have the internet as much as we do now. So anyway, we saw these two Russian tortoises, and I said to him, you know, what do you think? Should we get those two turtles? We have never had turtles. And he said, let's do it. So we bought the two, which we would never do now. Obviously, you shouldn't buy animals, but took them home and named them, the two of them, Peggy Sue. And so we were like, we had them in the bathroom, and we were like, well, now what do we do? So we started reading up on turtles, and to our amazement found that there was hardly any information out there, and that the information that there was like a whole new thing for us. So we started asking around, and most people didn't know what to do if they had a turtle or found a turtle. So it was at that point that we realized that we could be a clearinghouse of information for turtle people around the United States, because I was an early adopter of the internet. So I already knew, you know, how to kind of get the word out. And excuse me, and so we went to the veterinarians in the area. We sort of posted information that we were available to, we were going to start a turtle rescue. And if there was a turtle that needed rescuing, to let us know. And it was like the floodgates opened. We got so many requests to take turtles, or we had a friend who worked at the pet store where we bought the turtles, and she, ironically, after being a helper with us for a long time, she became a veterinarian and became specializing in turtles. So anyway, we launched ourselves as the first national turtle and tortoise rescue. And in 1994, we became a nonprofit. And we really wanted to become a clearinghouse of information, since there was so little information about turtles and tortoises. And then in 1997, we moved to Malibu because there was so much land there, and the prices back then were pretty inexpensive compared to where they are now. And so we bought an acre. We have about almost an acre and a half, and created the area with the turtle rescue. And that was history. I mean, we from there, and with the explosion of the internet, we really became the go-to people to ask questions and to help people with their rehoming their turtles or adopting turtles. And over the years, we changed as we grew, because there were, there's a finite amount of turtles that you can rescue yourselves, depending on how much land you have. And so we have really talked to thousands of people and helped them. The biggest problem we have now, as everybody probably knows, it's sulcata tortoises. And probably 15 years, 20 years ago, I wrote a press release that was, don't buy sulcatas. I said they're going to overtake us, and we're not going to have any homes for them. And boy, was that prediction right. And so, I mean, every day, and anybody in the turtle rescue business gets questions, can you take my sulcata? And there's only finite room for a 100-pound animal. So we have two, and that's all we can have space for, because they need a lot of wandering room. So at the present time, we have about slightly over 100 turtles and tortoises. And then we also have a turtle hospital, which has turtles that are too small to be out in the actual sanctuary, or they have a problem. And one of the stars of our sanctuary is Spinner. Spinner has been with us for more than 25 years, and she is a box turtle that came in and only could walk in circles, hence her name. and she could not eat because when she'd go to eat, she'd start spinning in a circle. And so we've been hand feeding this poor girl for 25 years. And it turns out some kids took her and spun her around by her legs and disoriented her, and so that she could no longer walk normally. So I'm proud to say that we've had her that long and we've been hand feeding her that long. She's really special. So a lot of our turtles have been here with us for 25 years, which is, wonderful. And the pond turtles, they've been with us a very long time. In 2018, as you all might remember, Malibu had a major fire, and it was our neighborhood. It sort of bounces around every time there's a fire. It's a new area that hadn't burned, and ours had not burned for probably 40 years. And we lost our home, and we lost the turtle sanctuary and hospital. But the good news is that it's pretty much a miracle. We took 50 turtles out in our cars, and the people that were supposed to come and get the sulcatas and the other big tortoises, we'd already, rehearsed this. They could not get in. The fire was so intense. It was a fire tornado. It was so hot and so huge. Nobody could believe how terrible it was. And it came down the main road from above us for about, miles, because normally if you drive it, it's 30 minutes. So anyway, we had to leave those animals behind. We could not get them out. There was nobody that could get them because people had horses, and Malibu is very rural. So we went down and we evacuated to the beach that's right below our house, which anybody who has animals always takes them there if there's a fire. And so during the night, I prayed to St. Francis to take care of the animals that we had to leave behind, which included the sulcatas, who are both over 100 pounds. There was many of the turtles, thankfully, were hibernating. I had run around until there were flames in our backyard trying to find them all. It was pretty horrible. And so anyway, there were some others, and our two roosters that we had rescued off the Pacific Coast Highway 7 years before, they were wild and they would not let me catch them no matter what. And so I had to leave them behind as well. So in the middle of the night, I prayed to St. Francis to take care of the animals that we left behind. And we have this beautiful statue of St. Francis that my husband gave me as a gift that was very unique in our front yard. And so the next morning, and the fire was terrible, and the fire department was worse. They were horrible. I lost all respect for the fire department. Don't expect them to save your house. Houses were burning and people were crying and standing in front of them saying, please put it out, please put it out. And they said, we don't have any orders. It was such a horrible nightmare. So anyway, the next morning we drove up to our house. All the other people in Malibu that were not at Zuma Beach had to evacuate. They evacuated the whole city. I don't know why, but there's a lot of weird things that went on. And it took all the people in Malibu to go from Malibu to Santa Monica, which is normally maybe a 45-minute drive, 5 hours to get out of Malibu because it was bumper to bumper and flames on both sides. It was ridiculous. So I was very happy we were at Zuma Beach because we only had a small time when we were a little nervous. So we went back up to our house, which is right above Zuma. And when we drove up, started getting out of the car, my husband turned to me and said, I hear a rooster. And I said, you're kidding. I mean, I was in disbelief. So everything burned. The rescue was burned to the ground, except we had put in all fireproof housing. and all the fireproof housing was still there. And the sulcatas had stayed in their fireproof housing. The chickens went in with them, and they were fine. Everybody was fine. It was a miracle, seriously, a miracle. We had a few that did not make it because they didn't hibernate, but I couldn't find them when I was running around. But the majority of virtually all of them made it, and it was because of St. Francis. So interestingly enough, the only thing that survived, the house was burned to the ground, everything was burned to the ground, was the statue of St. Francis. Was the only thing that was sitting in the front yard when we got there. And so that's why I said it was a miracle. I mean, it was just unusual and weird. But the interesting thing about that is that 2 weeks later, someone stole that statue because, we weren't living there. And so I can only hope that either they needed it more than we did or karma. I don't know. But it was like, what? We drove up and no statue. So we moved in with my son for 11 weeks and took the 50 turtles with us. And we were living in one bed, small bedroom with 3 cats and 50 turtles. It was very unusual. God bless my son. He was a saint. So anyway, we then got a rental, very luckily, probably 5 minutes from the house that burned in Malibu. So we were able to go up to the turtle rescue on a regular basis, feed everybody, take care of everybody. And because we only use native plants, everything started growing back almost immediately. And the pond area did burn, but the pond turtles were still in the water, obviously, because they were hibernating, which was very fortunate also. So we were very blessed, let's put it that way. So we've rebuilt our home. We went modular so we could move back in quicker than a stick-built house. And probably of the 500 homes that burned, only 200 have been built so far because of COVID and the other problems that we're having with supply chain. So the bottom line is that we rebuilt the turtle hospital. The turtles are back in there, and we only have probably 7, which is really good. And we had 5 babies born, 5 redfoot babies, all male, born about 4 months ago. I walked outside, and there they were walking around in the redfoot yard because they don't hibernate. So it's just we're very lucky. We're just we got off really well. We've now been I tell you that fireproof housing, which is called hardy board. It did the trick. It didn't burn at all, and it saved the lives of the sulcatas and some of the other animals too. And so, and thankfully they were hibernating, they were saved as well because the fire didn't burn through the dirt where they were dug in. So anyway, now we're back. The turtle rescue still needs a lot of work. The big, beautiful shade tree in the middle of it fell over in a windstorm because it got damaged in the fire. So we have no big shade tree there anymore. There's still shade, but not what we need. And also the surrounding wall melted in between each of the sections, and so that needs to be repaired. I climb over a 3-foot wall every day to get in and out, and all in good time. It's been a very long process. So anyway, that's a very long-winded story about it, how we got where we are now.
It's a beautiful story. I'm so glad to hear that everybody survived, and that must have been just an unbelievably horrible horrible experience. So I'm glad that you guys have been able to rebuild and that everyone survived. That's a great tip on the fireproof housing. We have issues with the fire that cripple us as well.
Yes, well, it's a good thing to be able to share the story, especially for turtle lovers, so that they know that there is hope when bad things happen, and also there are ways to protect your turtles in case of a fire. So you live in Malibu, you got to expect bad things to happen every so often. Unfortunately, we did lose 3 people who died in the fire, but we had most people got out, which was a good thing. So
that's great. That's great. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the turtles and the tortoises? Maybe for anyone who doesn't know, just give us a little bit of explanation on the difference, or insight into the different individuals you have living with you now.
Sure. We stopped, by the way, we stopped saving or rescuing desert tortoises. Malibu is not a great environment for a desert tortoise. So we made a decision about 10 years ago not to rescue them anymore. And frankly, there's a lot of homes that would like to have a desert tortoise. And there's a group that you probably know called CTTC, California Turtle and Tortoise Club. And they specialize in that. So I have a good friend who is part of the one in Southern California, and she takes them if I get requests. But we have a variety of tortoises and turtles here. That one, in fact, in the pond, I went out there probably about a month ago, and I saw this turtle that I had not seen for 10 years. I don't know where the heck he was or she was, but there she was, and it was pretty amazing. So you never know what's gonna happen, and the joys of having a rescue. And so we have various kinds. We have a lot of different types of turtles and tortoises, in fact. And at this point, I don't even know what some of them really are. I'm not an enthusiast, and I'm not I don't go to the turtle shows. I used to, and people didn't care what I said about sulcatas, so I gave up. And we have 2 big sulcatas, Tank and Poppy. Tank is very large, and he has been with us for 20 years. He came in when he was very small, and then Popcorn, I actually can't remember how Popcorn got here, but he's very strong, but not quite as big as Tank. We used to, in the old days, have people FedEx us their animals overnight, and they would come from all over the United States, which is the reason why we had so many different kinds of turtles here. The day I got a dead turtle, and it wasn't because he got flown here by FedEx. He was already dead when the guy put him in the box, and he claims that he wasn't, but I can tell a dead turtle who's been dead for more than a day or 2 or 3. So he'd sent 3 turtles, and this one was not it. But I said, I think it's too risky to FedEx turtles anymore. And that was probably 10, 15 years ago. And we don't do that anymore. They all come in. I'm not taking any more turtles right now. Just we're at full capacity, and I just can't. But at some point we had to stop doing that. And so the reason we did was because back in the day, there weren't any turtle or tortoise rescues, and people were desperate. So that's why we started taking them. Now, of course, there are turtle and tortoise rescues all over the country. So it's not a problem like it used to be. And when somebody asks me to take a turtle, I have a very good paragraph that gives them options, and they never come back. So I'm guessing that it works. So so we have a really cool group of turtles here that have been here quite a while, and most of them are hibernating. I'd say probably 10 or 12 are not hibernating right now. The redfoots and the sulcatas, and there's a couple of others. We have this one called Evil, and Evil is a Russian tortoise. And Evil, and then I called him Evil the day that he started eating my pants while I was out in the rescue. And so I have a video of that, actually. So he's up, and I don't know why, but he's still eating. And there's a couple of others that are not hibernating that should be, but probably the rain is throwing them off because it's been raining nonstop here, like it is in California. So, but we're in a place where we don't have to worry about flooding or anything.
Oh, that's good. That's good. You mentioned that you get a lot of requests to rescue or rehome sulcatas. Is there something specific about them or about their experience in the US that makes that so necessary?
Well, I think what happened when I sent out this press release, 15 years ago, saying there's going to be this horrible group of sulcata, so don't buy them. They're cute when they're babies, of course, and people get them because their kids want one, and there's all sorts of reasons why people end up with sulcatas, but they're usually small. When they get to be 10 years old and start being destructive, boy, that's when they really want to get rid of them. And, they knock over garden chairs. They try to break through the glass doors in your house. I totally understand it, but hey, you signed up for this. It's just like a dog or cat. And there's only a finite number of homes that people, can expect to find for a big old sulcata. So part of what we do is a lot of education. Don't buy sulcatas. We have a press release we send out every so often. And there is on my website, which is being updated, and we'll have a new website soon. There is a place where you can go and post your sulcata or any of your animals. But normally what I do is suggest to people that they go on Nextdoor, they go to their vet and post things saying that they would like to rehome their sulcatas. There's lots of ways of trying to do it, but unfortunately we can't inspect every house. And since we're national, we get requests from all over the US. So, it's just an educational process, and it's just needs to be said constantly, don't buy them. And people still do.
Mm-hmm. And is this a similar process with the other turtles and tortoises that come to you? Are a lot of them bought initially as pets, or do they come from zoos or other places as well?
The zoos, by the way, won't take sulcatas anymore. They stopped doing it. No, where they come from are those stupid shows where people go, the reptile shows, and they have all these babies lined up. I went to a couple of them to have my own booth where I could tell people don't buy them. And then 2 feet away is a booth where they're selling them. So it's the reptile people that are the evildoers when it comes to getting sulcatas out there. And there's nothing we can do. I mean, it's a money thing. When I first was working with when the sulcatas first came into being constantly, they were being sold, they were $3,000 a piece. And now they're a dime a dozen, but people still pay $100 for a sulcata. And it's ridiculous. They're free everywhere. I mean, because people are always trying to get rid of them, but people are still buying them. No matter how much education you do, there's this cute little baby sulcata, and then it gets to be 10 years old and it's destroying your house.
Mm. Yeah, they're not prepared, I guess, for what they're getting into.
No, the salespeople aren't going to tell them beware.
Sure.
They money. So it all comes down to money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like the educational initiatives that you guys are doing are going to make such a difference, just giving people an idea of what it is that they really are purchasing and getting into. And hopefully that helps with the quantity of individuals needing rescue and rehoming.
Yes, and fortunately, but a lot of the places, like there's a rescue in New York, and she called me and she said she just doesn't have any more room for sulcatas. And I said, that's the problem for many of us. We don't have the room.
Yeah.
Because they can't be in a little tiny space. They have to roam around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's different for the other turtles and tortoises that you guys have living with you. They're more comfortable in smaller environments.
Most definitely. The various kinds that we have, a lot of them are rather small, so they don't really care. In fact, they don't like being transferred around to other spaces. So once they're here and they're in their home, that's where they stay.
Mm-hmm.
We have what we call the boggy yard, which are turtles that are wet, but they don't swim well. And so that's one section. Then we have two sections one for each sulcata. Then we have a redfoot area. And then we have what we call the main yard, where a lot of the different breeds are together because they can be. And because they eat the same food and they eat worms. We order live worms during the summer. We order live worms once a week. They go through 3,000 worms in 1 week.
Wow.
And so you need to have the space also. You can't just have a sulcata in your backyard. A lot of times they'll try and dig out or break out. So our sulcatas are pretty much, Tank is, his name is a good name, and he had that name from the very beginning when he was little. He tries to, whatever he can ruin, he will continue to ruin. So you have to, if a sulcata can see out, they're going to want to get out. So you have to put up walls that are high enough so they can't see out to try and break, the fence. So there's a lot of things people don't know. That's why you see news reports of people saying, sulcatas were wandering down the street because they break out. And so I always tell people, you either have to dig down a foot and put in wire and keep them from digging, or you have to put if they can see out, put something to block their view. And that's actually pretty simple. Once you block their view, they don't dig as much.
Interesting. That's very interesting. So you mentioned a little bit about how you came to found the American Tortoise Rescue and what that process was like for you. But I know you held a number of different jobs before that and different professions. Do you think that your work in any of these different environments, maybe specifically as a nurse, informed the way that you work with the tortoises and turtles?
Absolutely. I was actually a trained RN when I graduated from high school. I went to nursing school I have a bachelor's degree, and I worked as a nurse for about 10 years. And then I interestingly enough, somebody came to me and asked me if I could do PR. I got a call while I was working as a nurse, and the doctor on the line said, "Do you know anybody who can do PR?" And I was like, "Oh, I can." I don't know why I said that. I didn't know what PR was. Anyway, after I hung up, we made a date to meet, and I asked somebody if they knew anybody in PR I could meet with to give me a quick lesson. And so I actually met with a guy in a bar for about 3 hours, and he taught me everything he knew about PR. And I got the client. And so that was, I had to leave my other job and as a nurse. And, but because I was a nurse, that's why I was able to build such a huge business in healthcare PR.
Mhm.
So after I did about 6 months with this doctor, with his, he was launching one of the very first surgery centers. The guy who told me how to do PR hired me to start his healthcare division.
Mm.
So that's how I ended up in, in being in PR. And then 6 months after I started working with him, he said he was leaving to go up and get a job in Sacramento where he was looking for, and said, would you like to take over my agency?
Mm.
It was sort of serendipity. So I took over the agency. I grew it to 50 people working for me and sold it to an international corporation. And the whole time I was doing this, I was also doing turtle rescue, because being in PR, it's easy to do. I could send out press releases and so on. And then I restarted my agency, and my two sons became my business partners. And so the rest is history.
That's wonderful.
My background was very helpful. Obviously, I don't even need to call a vet when I have a prolapse with a turtle, because I know how to do that. I know how to fix a prolapse. I know how to do injuries, and I don't have to go to the vet. I know how to bandage and what medications to use and so on. So I'm lucky that way. It keeps the vet bills down for most of the things that are going on. I think I've been to the vet once in the last 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm very lucky that way. So and now with I use my PR skills to send out press releases and to do the website redo and stuff like that. So I'm sort of a jack of all trades.
Yeah. It sounds like it, but it works so well for you. That's amazing.
Yes, yeah, it's very handy.
So since you've worked pretty extensively with both humans and non-human animals, do you think is there something that you would identify as a reason why people are reluctant to show empathy for non-human animals in the way that they might for other humans?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm trying to educate people on is that turtles are not rocks with legs. They're sentient beings. If you let them, they can make you laugh. They can walk backwards. They can make honking noises. I mean, they have a lot to offer. And if you treat them like a cat or dog, they are more likely to act like a cat or dog, because they recognize you, they run at you when they see you for food. There's a lot to really enjoy about a turtle or tortoise. And I think that people think that they're supposed to buy them and put them in a tank, and that's that. And it's very sad. Turtle in a tank is a miserable turtle as far as I'm concerned. So there's exceptions, obviously, if they're sick or there's some other reason, or you rescue them and you have no other option. But they're very interesting, and they're way down on the bottom of the donation totem pole. They're down there at the bottom, and I have, because of PR, I have a really cool new, well, it's not new anymore, but we pay for a very expensive media directory. It's very, very expensive, but it has one function that's really cool, which is talking about. And if you click on that and put in a subject like turtles, you will get all the reporters that are at that very moment talking about turtles. And so I use that function a lot, because I can get some information out to people who are obviously interested in turtles at the same time. So my PR, what I do in PR is very helpful in terms of educating and also talking to people and trying to change people's opinions about turtles. And it's not easy. You can't pick them up and they're not warm and fuzzy.
Right. Right. Well, speaking of World Turtle Day is coming up on May 23rd. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, World Turtle Day. I'm wearing my World Turtle Day celebrate. We started World Turtle Day in 2000, year 2000. And I started it because I felt like it would be a good way to get the word out to more than, a small crowd at one time. And also talk, to a bigger audience about what's going on. And I'm really proud of World Turtle Day's accomplishments because in all those years, and we're now coming up to World Turtle Day, May 23rd. This will be we started in 2020. So now, over the last 5 years, or probably a little bit more, we are so well known that we trend #1 on Twitter and Facebook and all of the social media sites. And we get wonderful photos from all over the world. And so we're really, really proud of our accomplishment with World Turtle Day because it helps to spread the word about how important these animals are. And so every year we have a new shirt. And we tell people, if you want to sign up and get our newsletter, which we have about 25,000 people on the newsletter now, you can just send me an email, which is info@tortoise.com. And then I sign you up and you get all the news and what's happening and find out about World Turtle Day. We have what we call a party pack, and it comes with logos and ideas and all sorts of stuff on what you can do for World Turtle Day. And people celebrate it around the world, and they send me really cool stuff, photos of what they've been doing. And so it's really a fun day. It's not made for fundraising, it's made for friend raising and getting people to know more about turtles. And so the fundraising is off the table on World Turtle Day. We just look at it as a day to get the word out.
That's beautiful. What a lovely celebration. Friend raising is so sweet. I like that a lot.
Well, fundraising is important, as we all know, but it's really hard to do for turtles. It's not like, oh, look at this nice little warm fuzzy kitty, but we try, we try to show some of the turtles that are injured and are doing better, or they have very big veterinary bills, and we need to, and the veterinary bills, as you know, for exotic turtles and tortoises, and the exotic vets are so expensive. People send me emails telling me, I just spent, $12,000 on my sulcata, and I was, this is another reason that you shouldn't have a sulcata, because the vet bills, if something happens there. And this poor woman, her sulcata, after spending all this money, it passed away, or they had to euthanize it because there wasn't much that could do after that. And it was just like, these stories are very sad, and I wish there was, something we could do. But exotic vets are really expensive, and that's another reason not to get a sulcata. You don't want to have to go to the vet.
Sounds like it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure many people here listening are eager to help however they can. Is there something that, some guidance you can offer if people want to support turtle and tortoise revitalization, how they can get involved or lend a hand?
Well, I think the good thing is there's so many turtle and tortoise rescues now. And I mean, you guys are wonderful. And we've rescued thousands of turtles and tortoises and rehomed them. So I think that people are beginning to know. I say that because of all the emails I get every day from people. Unfortunately, a lot of them are trying to get rid of their animals, but it shows that there are a lot of people that have turtles and tortoises now. And I just found out that what the heck is it called? That movie with the the animated movie with the turtles and the turtles in it. I can't remember what it's called. It's an animated movie that's been out 3 different times, and now they're going to be doing a new one. And after their movie, the sales of turtles, because kids are demanding turtles and tortoises, they see this film with these turtles jumping around, and they ask their parents to buy a turtle. What they don't know is their turtle isn't going to be flying through the air. And so, this is a movie, folks. So now I have to send that press release out, because I just found out it's coming out again in August for national. Paramount does it every so often. They had their 30th anniversary last year, and they asked me to come and be part of the celebration. I did, so I could educate people. But now that I see they're doing another movie, it's going to be a problem. So I'm gearing up to send out my press releases to parents again about don't buy turtles. They don't fly. Tell your kid, buy fake turtles or whatever you have to do, but don't buy a live one. So that's a big problem when this movie comes out.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles, whatever that thing was called.
Oh, sure. Yeah, something American Super Ninja Turtle, something like that. I know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I should have written it down, because that's definitely, going to be a problem for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been amazing, Susan. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I'm sure people have questions they've been waiting to ask, so please feel free, everybody, to send those in now. But your insight and wisdom into this topic is invaluable. So thank you for sharing with us.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm always happy to do it, and hope that somebody gets inspired in some way. So
yeah. I know I'm inspired, and I'm sure everyone listening feels the same.
Well, I'm going to be preemptive, Susan, because I've got you now. Susan has been my mentor and absolutely amazing. So this is such a wonderful occasion for me. You know what I'm going to talk about. So the whole thing is that reptiles have the same neural substrates, brain, blah, 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 capacities that we do, and birds and fish and other mammals. And so what's your inside view on the sort of the psychology and the susceptibility to emotional trauma, et cetera? That's something that I see so profoundly. Like our sulcata, Sebastian, is so emotional. And so are the desert tortoises as well. They're so emotional. They're so in tune. And I was thinking about Spinner. Would you say, maybe talk about the psychological landscape of different turtles or a turtle tortoise? And also, like with Spinner, do you think that the reason that she or he is spinning is psychological or physiological damage or trauma from what those kids had done?
It's really interesting. Spinner is a very interesting study, because she sees me and she tries to immediately get my attention. And she needs to be hand fed, so it's kind of a chore. But you know what? She's amazing, because she eats the small worms and bananas. That's the only 2 things that she likes. She actually spits out other food, and she is totally cognizant of what's going on around her. And when she sees the other turtle, she's in the hospital because she can't be outside. She wouldn't do well, but she does go outside. Just so you know, the ones that are in the hospital, I have an arrangement in the garage where we have this big safety container with a see-through lid. They can go out in there and get sun. So in the summer, when it starts getting warmer, they go out and sit in there. They can be in there almost all day because of the way the sun hits it. And so she knows the other turtles and everything, but she when she sees me, she definitely knows who I am. And I think she is very unique. I mean, I feel blessed that I've had this relationship with that little turtle rather, that she's a box turtle, but she's a pretty large because she's female. So, it's a good question. I think that she was very lucky to come here, because if not, she would be dead by now and would have been dead years ago. So it's just it's tough to answer that question, but I know that she is happy when she sees me and can't wait to eat, and she's very cooperative, and she chomps down those worms like you wouldn't believe. She'll eat 20, 25 worms in it at a sitting, and she'll eat the bananas, and she looks great. Other than that, she has one eye that does not open anymore. It hasn't opened for a long, long, long time. So she's a one-eyed spinner.
Well, I've noticed with our desert tortoises, again, these are just, my own experiences. They're so, I mean, and this is with all the tortoises, they're very, very social, what we would call social. They like Sebastian spends time in the summer with the roosters, and they're always talking to each other. He's very vocal. I mean, he makes all sorts of, language and things like that. And that's something I think people just don't appreciate, particularly because they're called cold-blooded. That's even in the vernacular where, we say that, there's a reptile, cold-blooded. And so I think that that's something that people just don't appreciate, is the depth of their emotions and the incredible fine-tuned intelligence and care and connection. They're very loving as well.
I totally agree. What's interesting, Tank is very smart. He's probably the smartest of the two sulcatas. Poppy just runs into walls and knocks everything over all the time. But Tank, I feed them, reptile food, and I wet it first because I'm a mother and I have to do things that will make things easy. And so anyway, when he eats it, it squishes down. So I'll say to him, "Hey, Tank, do you want me to fix that?" And he'll stop and he'll let me take like a piece of shale or something and scoop it back into a pile so it's easier to eat. He knows exactly what I'm doing and what I'm saying about that. And he sees me and he comes running like, they do. I think that depends on the animal. Some are not quite so bright, but I think that people miss it. They don't see that they can actually have a personality in there and have feelings and, excitement and love and all that kind of thing. So I think people need to be more educated about how much they can enjoy their animal. And that's why seeing a turtle in a tank breaks my heart, because it's so boring, so.
Well, the other thing with the desert tortoises, because they brumate here for about six months, and their whole story, which is too long to get into, they came from a research lab that was going to euthanize them, etc. And they all have quote unquote disability, an arm or leg or a shell issue. And, and I find that they're so amazing because they have such faith in life. Here they are, I stick them in a box with hay, and I think that's another thing that people undervalue, is the depth of their faith in life and their engagement. I mean, I find them quite profound in terms of being sort of exemplars of how to be in the world.
Yeah, I think people don't really expect a turtle or tortoise to have a personality and to be interesting, and they just see it more as a I have this big sulcata. They just are a showpiece rather than an actual animal with feelings and everything. So a lot of people, though, I have to say, a lot of people do love their sulcatas and love their animals a whole bunch. And thankfully that, it's not the majority that feel that they're just a rock with legs. So the owners tend to learn things too slowly, and we try to educate them as you do. So
I think the other one comment, and then I'll let other people ask questions because I'm monopolizing you. But the other thing, when you made the comment that, what did you say? I wrote it down here, that there's not many places to accommodate a sulcata. And I would reinterpret that in the sense of that people are not, and this goes for other animals that are rescued or bought, is people are not willing to make the physical and internal shift in order to accommodate another person, in this case, a tortoise. So yeah, if you're living in an apartment, it's somewhat limited in the sense of the space for the sulcata. But I really think that that's where creativity and a willingness to accommodate an animal so that they will have a life, and maybe you just have to change yours.
It's one of the things that really bugs me, and I don't know how to make this change, but one of the common emails I get is, I need to place the sulcata. My son got it, and now he's gone off to college. Well, you know what? That's too bad. It's just, there's a whole thing there that is that I get frequently, that he's off to college, so I don't want the turtle. I can't take care of it, and blah, blah, blah. And, I always start out by saying, something like, everybody has the same problem as you do, and it's a big problem. So we have to figure out how to accommodate all these turtles with the people going off to college. They shouldn't have gotten it in the first place, but that's, again, going to the whole idea of buying a turtle. So I'm not sure that we can ever solve that problem, but that's one that I get a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Would anyone else like to ask a question? Ray, yeah. Are you raising a hand? Hi.
Yeah, I am. You figured I'd get in there somehow, huh? Do you sense, which I'm not sure because I've learned a lot about tortoises, especially sulcatas from Gay, do you sense that you're going to big storm coming in tomorrow again off the coast? Do you see a change in their behavior, do they sense that there's a big storm coming in, not just normal rain off the coast, which you always get out in Cali, because I lived out there for years? This is a big storm coming in again. Do you see a change in their behavior where they know, we got to go for cover, or we have to talk to each other, or let's find some cover? Do you see that in them?
Well, it's a good question. It's interesting because Tank and Poppy both have doors on their houses that are not attached, so they can knock them down and come out when they want to. And of course, they don't come out. I can see them from the house. I can see both their doors. Because when the wind blows, of course, which is really powerful, it knocks the doors over. Sometimes I have to prop them a certain way. And the doors are closed, they stay in there. They don't open the door and come out. So they obviously know the weather pattern, because if Tank does not like the rain, and I'm not sure about Poppy because he's oddball, but neither of them open the door. And so I think they do. I think they know weather patterns, and they don't like rain. If Tank comes out and it starts raining, he goes back in his house right away. So he's got quite a big house, and so does Poppy. But Poppy needs to have his heat pads. He needs another heat pad. I think if he doesn't sit on the right one, he's going to be cold. So Tank has this habit of going all the way to the back of his house, which is about a 10-foot long house, and he goes. The heat pad is at the very end, and he goes in and he squishes himself right on top of it. It's really interesting. I don't know what he's going to do when he gets too big, because the house is only so wide. It's like 4 feet or 3 feet. So, but yeah, that's a good question, and I think they are aware of weather patterns, because they definitely, if it rains all day, they won't come out at all. So,
do you think they sense it? Like Ellie sense earthquakes with their feet, and they know when something's coming. Like when they had the tsunami that was out in Thailand, they could sense it through their feet. Do you think they sense it through their feet, or do you think it's a mental thing or a sensory thing that they can know that there's a storm coming? Because there's a big storm coming in tomorrow.
Yeah, we heard it today. It's raining right now, but they it's interesting. Ted won't even come to the door to look. So there's something going on. They know something is going on. So they must have some sort of radar that says
Something's out there. Yeah.
don't open the door. There's bad things happening.
Right. Not that you haven't had bad weather out there, but you're getting another huge. You guys have gotten creamed.
We get pretty, we have bad wind. Our wind is so bad that I finally had to put a generator in, because the year before on Thanksgiving, we lost power for 3 days. And I mean, we're not in a rural part of Malibu. We're in an actual, normal part of where you can drive down the coast highway in 2 minutes. But the power, has gone out for years. And when I lost power for 3 days on Thanksgiving, that was it. I finally bought a generator, and it cost me a fortune, but it also heats the turtle rescue. So it was $28,000 to put in the whole thing and to get the turtle rescue in there. And I think that there's definitely a sense of weather, and I'm not coming out.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ray, for your question. Does anybody else want to offer a question before we wrap up?
I see a hand. I don't know if Allison, is that a hand?
I'm not sure. Allison, did you have a question? Anybody else?
I have a comment. They're ectotherms. So they must have, in fact, I was just thinking about this and writing about it. We have ground squirrels here. I don't know if you do, but anyways, they're sort of the bane.
Oh, don't say the word squirrel.
Okay, we'll say GS. So, and I've really noticed that they are better weather predictors than the local weather now, whatever it is, in the sense of when they go to ground, this is in the summer, when they go to the ground, when they estivate, right? Then I know it's going to be hot. Now, it can even be like the same temperature predicted on 2 days, but they may go out on one day, but they don't on the other. So I started thinking, well, maybe they have like some kind of a sensory thing where they're picking up the second derivative. In other words, the rate of change or something like that. And I would say that probably the tortoises, being ectotherms, are sort of hardwired into the environment.
That's a very good point. Just to make a point on the ground squirrels, let me tell you what happened to me, and I'm really, really unhappy about the whole thing. We have an invasion of ground squirrels, and what they did was they dug underneath the turtle houses and came up through the turtle houses, and some turtles went down in their holes and couldn't get out and died. And so that was war on ground squirrels, as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, I can't put in the cement. I want to put in like some kind of a break. What I did is I took all the houses apart. The cicadas, it doesn't matter, but these were little, what do you call them? Well, all little turtles that we have. And so I was so unhappy, and I took all the houses apart, took the roofs off. I put rocks in there to block all of the places that they had been digging. Took me a couple of days to do the whole thing. It's not perfect. I actually had to jump through hoops to put the weather, keep them dry from the weather too while they're hibernating in there. But the ground squirrels now are having babies. This is baby season. And so now they're started up again. I do not use pesticides of any kind, but I got to tell you, at this point, I had to hire somebody to come in and get rid of them, because I can't I can't deal with them. They're killing turtles, and I will not stand for that. That's just not it. So be careful with the ground squirrels, because they will dig. If they can dig under where the turtles are small, they could kill them, because they'll fall in their holes. Those holes are like, I don't know, 5 feet deep. They're terrible. So anyway, I spent a lot of time on this issue, and I don't have a problem with any of the other ones, the little ones, the skinny things that pop out of the ground, gophers, they're fine. In fact, if you feed them, they will stay in the same hole, and they will come up every day, and they will know who you are. I had one for 2 years that I fed every morning, and he was, I can't remember his name now because it's been a little while, but he was really cute, and they learn that if you feed them in that one hole, they won't dig up your whole yard. So advice.
I have one more question, not to preempt anyone else. That there was the sulcata rescue in Ojai. Is that still going on? I know that Dave passed.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear that. I missed that for some reason.
Yeah, I went to their website. I didn't see that it was open anymore, but I think he had over 100.
Oh God, that's a terrible idea. I think I know which one you're talking about. That's ridiculous. I mean, at some point you have to say.
But he did stop taking them, and he had quite a bit of acreage. He had a lot of acreage for them. And it was interesting because at the time when I was researching about the desert tortoises, I couldn't believe, he said that that they didn't dig down, but the desert tortoises did, which is why we had to put the couple feet of the hardware cloth down so that the desert tortoises wouldn't, dig out in that way. But no, that was, he had to cap it. Also because he had health issues, but I think it was a beautiful place.
Well, what happened to the tortoises? Does he still have them?
No, I know that he passed, and I know he had family, but I haven't heard anything from that. Maybe the people at the California tortoise thing would know.
We have a big problem because all of the people saving tortoises, and the majority of us in the rescue business, are old. And I've talked to, I have a friend on the East Coast that rescues roosters and chickens, and she's got, a ton of them, and she's a little bit older than I am. And I said to her, because she's a PhD and she's really smart, and she's a brilliant woman. I said, what are your plans for your retirement from this? Because we're not getting any younger. And she said, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I have an attorney that might help, but she said, I don't know what to do. I'm not there yet. And that's the problem. And a lot of young people, unfortunately, are not stepping up to take, they're too interested in TikTok. And so they're not getting married anymore. And, there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's not the same thing that when we started we all started our rescues. We've been in it a long time, but it's scary to think about what's going to happen. So I don't think I can count on my children, and I don't think I can count on my grandchildren are too young. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but something to think about, people.
Yeah, that's a very good point to bring up.
Yeah. So when starting a rescue, think about and how you're going to get out of it. So, you can adopt out all the turtles, yes, but and I just had a friend who had water turtles, and he was trying to get rid of his red-eared sliders, and he had some other kind of exotic ones. And he had a heck of a time getting rid of just those, So, and I was trying to help him, I posted it on the site and stuff, but it's a problem. So we're all in the same boat. And, look at Tippi Hedren. She rescued all those lions. she has somebody that's going to take over for her. She's 92. So, well, enjoy them while you can.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good point. And that's something to think about. And I guess for those of us of a younger generation, I know something to keep in mind as we move into our careers.
Also, first of all, we had the fire, which was a problem. Then also I broke my hip and my elbow about 6-7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. Then I recently broke my hand, which was my dominant hand. So, those kinds of things can really throw you for a loop if you don't have, help. So I'm pretty much a one-man band here. And my husband was very helpful, but now he's not quite, can't help as much. So because he's got a couple of disabilities. So, I just go out there and climb over the 3-foot wall and feed them and clean it and do all those things. And oh, joy.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing incredible work, and it's been just amazing to hear all of your wisdom and experience doing this. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you, and thank everybody for coming. And I hope there was something, a nugget you took away that would be helpful. So.
Oh, there certainly was. And absolutely, thank you to all of our guests. Our next speaker will be a week from today on Friday, March 17th. But just so everyone will note, it will not be at 10 o'clock in the morning. It will be 1 p.m. Pacific time. We will be joined by Kathleen Prasad, founder of the Animal Reiki Source and president and co-founder of the nonprofit Shelter Animal Reiki Association, which supports rescued animals and their caregivers with the Let Animal Lead method of animal Reiki in shelters and sanctuaries around the world. So hopefully we'll see you all there. And if you enjoy Living One and you feel called to further support Carullos, Living One, and all of our sanctuary residents, please do consider donating at the link in our website, carullos.org. And once again, thank you so much, Susan, everybody, for being here and sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I really encourage everyone to visit the website and sign up on the newsletter. Not that you need more people on your newsletter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we did put the link in the chat, and we will link it in the YouTube as well when we put that up in the next day or so. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
World Turtle Day. Don't forget, May 23rd.